Good morning, everyone. Hope you've had a good morning up until now. Here's where it gets better because you're now at the all-staff briefing session. Brace yourself because we've got a really good speakers here today, lots to talk about. So I hope you're going to enjoy the event. For those of you who don't know me and new to East Riding, my name's Merlin Joseph and I'm the Executive Director for Children's Families and Schools. And if there is anyone new to East Riding, post it in the chat because we would love to welcome you to what I call the CFaS family of East Riding. So post it in the chat and we'll say hi. I'm not going to be saying too much today because obviously we've got a really packed agenda, but I just want to remind people that it is Staff Wellbeing Week and we want to challenge you. So why not take part in a health awareness session or sign up for a course that will empower your well-being and those around you as part of the week focus on well-being. Maybe go for a walk at lunchtime. Note to self, because I need to do that as well. And maybe take time to phone a friend that you've not spoken to for a while. But you know, when you catch up, it's like you saw them yesterday. So take time, do something that's going to enhance your well-being. And if you're really up for it, why not visit the leisure centre? Yeah, go and do a bit of exercise, a bit of box exercise to get that stress out. Really important to look after yourself because the work that we do is hard enough. And sometimes you don't get thanks for it. But we value you, and it's important that you value yourself and take care of yourself so that you can come to work and be your best self. Okay, next slide, please. So, as I said, lots and lots going on today. So I'm hoping you're all in that mindfulness state to really hear it. We want you to do a little bit of thinking and we want to hear from you. So there's going to be a bit of a breakout session, which Rachel's going to lead on. So Rachel Egan, she's the interim head of early help and prevention, and she's going to talk to you about all the great things that we're doing to develop our early help and prevention new ways of working. So lots going on, lots of partners involved, schools are actively involved as well. So I'm really hoping that you can enjoy that. And if there's anything that you think that we need to be thinking about that we haven't thought about, please let us know, because this is about all of us taking part in developing our redesign of early help and prevention. You'll then get to hear from Paula Sumner, and she's our strategic lead for quality and improvement. She's going to tell you what's happening and what we're focusing at the moment around our change program. So there's a plethora of things that we're doing, but there's a little focus on the panel process, and Paul is going to talk to you about that.
In East Riding.
Sorry. And then I've got someone in my ear, and then we've got Mike Morton. I'm really pleased to have Mike come and present to you, because this is what's it all about, really. Is about the child's voice and how we engage with our children, young people who cross our threshold, and that we need to do all that we can to support them. But it's so important that we hear the voice of children, young people, and how they get to influence service redesign, so that we're listening to them, actively listening to them, so that we can improve our services. And this is a critical part of the role in terms of independent visitor coordinators. I'm really pleased that Mark's here to talk to you about it, and hopefully we will get some more people involved in that space. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Rachel to take you through where we are thus far. Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Merlin. Morning, everybody. I'm really excited to be here this morning talking to you about our developments and new ways of working for early help and prevention. And just to take note and keep myself accountable for Merlin's challenge to us on well-being, I am planning to go for a walk at lunchtime today. And if anyone would like to come on that walk with me, let's meet at the point at 12:15 and go for a walk together. So hope to see some of you there. And in the meantime, the work I'm going to be talking about today is really going to be focusing on one of three concepts that we're progressing with schools in relation to early help and prevention. It's not the only thing we're doing in the early help and prevention space. We're currently doing lots of work around developing our partnerships. We're doing lots of work around community capacity and lots of work thinking about our new target operating model. I'm leading on the partnership bit, so if you'd like to get involved in that piece of work, please drop me a line. You'd be really welcome to get involved. If you're interested in the community work stream, then please reach out to Annette Ray, who's leading on that. And if you're interested in thinking about the new target operating model for early help, then reach out to Alison Allenby. And I'll put that information in the chat in case anybody wants to do that. Next slide, please, Daisy. So you can see on this slide things that schools have told us matter to them. Merlin and Tom and Penny have been regularly meeting with schools to get their views and perspectives. And following on from that, we set up a schools task and finish group as part of our new ways of working for early help and prevention. And that group has got school leaders on the group, and it's also got other colleagues from specialist services, from the safeguarding and education team. And so we've got a really good mixed perspective of what we need to do. And based on these pieces of feedback that I've just highlighted here, we developed three concepts. So one concept that we developed is called Pupil View, which is about how we share more information with schools as one of our key partners, and we'll be doing more on that in our next CFaS briefing. The other concept is Transitions Project, which is currently happening in schools as part of our Test and Learn programme of work. And again, we'll be able to update you more on that in the new academic year. And what I'm going to be talking to you about today in more detail is the idea of embedding our early help and prevention practitioners in schools through a link worker. Next slide. So what we wanted to do was really take this iterative approach of trying something and learning as we go and using that learning to refine our approach before we do anything at scale. So in this context, we have chosen 10 schools and the special school Riverside. And these are schools that are already really engaged with us, either through the task and finish groups or through the early help and prevention strategic partnership. And what schools said to us is what we would really like is a link worker in our school. And you can see there the list of link workers that we've got in the schools. And you'll notice that for some schools, there are 2 people. And one of the reasons for that is that we want to use this as an opportunity to help staff develop their skills. So where we've got a more experienced practitioner, we're matching them with a less experienced practitioner who can work alongside to build up some of their skills and confidence in this area of practice. And we've been meeting with each school to consider what do they want to be happening in their school. And I think something that was quite surprising is that schools wanted maybe quite different sorts of things. And that's part of the feedback that we've had from school. Part of our learning is they might want a menu that they can pick from, but they also want some flexibility. And they've done some really creative things. So one of my favourite things they did to raise awareness is they took a picture of one of our practitioners, Penny, who is in Hilderthorpe, and they sent that picture by text to all of their parents and said, look for Penny on the gate. This is who she is. You can talk to her and get to know her. And then they followed that up with Penny going to some of their sports days, their parents' evening, and being available in the school after school for anyone who might want to have a conversation. Next slide. So we've got all of this really exciting work happening in schools. The example I just gave is just one of the ways that schools are engaging with their link practitioners. And something else that schools are doing that seems to be really working well is inviting their link workers to come to attendance meetings with parents and to think about how link workers can support a family if there's been a fixed term exclusion or if that family's on a reintegration plan. And this is a summary here of what the link workers offer is to the schools. And you can read that for yourself, but I think just to pull out some of the kind of elements that we've really brought through from the task and finish group, I think one really important thing is about consistency. And I think consistency is, you know, two sides of a coin. It's consistency for schools, but it's consistency for children and families. Helping the school think about what's in their local community and providing that information, advice, guidance and signposting, and help making those connections. And one school described it as the bridge between school and home, the bridge between term time and holiday time. Obviously, really key part of our work and our development of new ways of working in early help is increasing our capacity to be able to do targeted whole family work when there's a request for service. And that's one of the things that the link practitioner would be doing, not only the link practitioner, because we still want to match people, families with the person that is best placed to support them. But it is one of the things that the link workers are doing. And we had a great conversation last week with schools who were starting to think about, well, could practitioners be allocated to a small group of schools where you've got the primary and secondary schools, with the primary schools, the feeders to those secondary schools, you know, they're often the same families. So they were starting to explore how could it work in a group of schools rather than single schools on their own. And I thought that was a really creative, innovative way of working. And we're going to be thinking about how do we consider that going forward. And also to deliver and support group interventions. And alongside this link worker programme, we've got the Transitions project in school, which we developed from a piece of local evidence that children who miss one or more days in the first week of term, 55% of those children will go on to become persistent absentees. So we thought we really need to do a test and learn around this, and that's the Transitions project. So alongside the Link Worker programme, we're delivering, I think, 12 sessions a week over 4 weeks for our year fives, and that will be followed up in the new academic year in secondary schools where the primaries are feeders to, and the offer there will be for those children who've come from primary to secondary, but actually it's going to be for any child who's feeling anxious in those early few weeks of the new term. And you can see here that we've got two project leads. One is Hannah Morley, and Hannah is one of our cluster managers in the children's centres, and she is managed by Mel Coates, who lots of you will know, who's recently joined us as Early Help and Prevention Strategic Manager, allowing Alison and Annette to go and work full-time on the transformation programme. And that's a really important model that we're using in transformation. I'm sure Paula will be saying more about that shortly. And I just wanted to note that one of the ways we're starting to work, which is really important, is that we're encouraging managers to take the lead on projects. And Hannah taking the lead on this project is an example of how we're engaging and including and empowering staff to be key agents of change. So we've got a task for you you're magically going to appear into a group. And when you get into that group, what we'd like you to do is to spend 10 minutes thinking about these 2 questions. What would you like link workers to know about your team in order for them to share information confidently in schools? And what is available in the community that would help link workers in their roles? And we want you to note that down, and one person take responsibility for that and for sending it to Daisy, so that we can collate it all and feed it into our new ways of working for early help and prevention. And I think Merlin mentioned at the start, we really want to hear from you. So if there are other things outside of these questions that you think we need to be considering as we move forward into new ways of working with early help, or you've got a brilliant idea for another test and learn program that we could start working up through the summer and ready to start delivering on in September, for example, then include that as well. The point of the questions is really to stimulate that conversation and really bring through your ideas into our future ways of working.
Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed that. And as Daisy said earlier, we're not having questions because of the time constraints, but if you can please write up your comments and send them through to Daisy or the CFaS inbox, that will be helpful. Rachel, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to also encourage people. Michelle is going to drop this in the chat. If you know about a service that you think would be great for families, you can email Family Information Service FISH, and they will add that into our service directory. Michelle's going to put that email into the chat for you. So you can do that directly. You can do it after this session. You can do it next week. You can do it anytime you want, and they'll put it in the directory.
You can even do it when you're on a walk with Rachel, can't we?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to thank Rachel for her presentation. Thank you, Rachel. And now we're going to move on to Paula, who's going to talk to you about panels. But as I said, there is a raft of new ways of working that we're developing as part of the change and improvement program. But this is a particular area of focus that we're working on. So I'll hand over to Paula. Thank you.
Thanks, Merlin. And as Merlin said, this is a small part of the overall change programme that myself and the team, along with the services, are working on. And this is in its development stages, but it is imminent. So I wanted to start to kind of land some of this across CFaS and also to pick up a bit of feedback, if possible, perhaps through emailing me at the end of the session or at any time between now and implementation. So if we could just move to the next slide, please. So we are looking at the way in which we make decisions, particularly around packages of support or education or care for children, or a combination of all of those. And the reason for doing this is kind of for a number of reasons. One is obviously our current financial position. It is a significant challenge. It remains a significant challenge, and we anticipate will continue to do so for some time. And also what we've identified as decisions are often being made, and it's not a criticism, it's kind of how our systems have developed over time outside of the current scheme of delegation, which we also appreciate is out of date. So running parallel to this piece of development work, we will be looking at the scheme of delegation, and that will be something that DLT will review and approve. So what some of the findings we've had, and some of you will be involved and have been having conversations with some of my team, are that some of the decision-making panels, not themselves, but as a collective, are disjointed across the system. And there is a difficulty for some of those panels in how we record those decisions so that we have management information about the cost of packages, etc. And often what that is resulting in, because of that absence of digital recording, there's little or no oversight. And some of you are already involved in conversations with us around us being able to have that single view of the child in terms of the cost of packages. So what we've identified is, because of that decision making sometimes in isolation is there is potential the children, we're not exploring other opportunities for funding for children, and looking at their existing packages of support to see if we could flex those rather than add another layer on, which is often becoming quite cumbersome for families to understand and to manage themselves. Thank you. We've just put that slide in, and most of you, if not all of you, will be aware of what the council scheme of delegation is, and obviously it provides information of who in service areas have been given the responsibility in the council's constitution to make decisions on behalf of the senior leadership team, and what those responsibilities relate to, whether that's financial or whether that's around decision making around, for example, service delivery or redesign. In the East Riding, executive directors approved the delegation to authorise expenditure, and also, equally as important, the income on behalf of services, and that's delegated to the staff from identified budgets, including authorisation limits of spend and approval chains. So what we've discussed at DLT is that in terms of supporting managers and staff across the system, we need to ensure that that oversight and support is there in terms of the decision making. Thanks, Daisy. So the purpose of the review is not to, what I want to be really clear is about not filling in additional forms. What we're trying to do is align things that are already in existence and actually make them easier to use, so that decisions can be made at the right level. And so it might be that something will come through, for example, the short breaks panel, and it might be that it's decided that because of the size of the package, it needs to be referred to the new access to resources panel, which initially will be chaired by Merlin. But what we don't want to have to do is for that person to then complete another form. We know that that's what really upsets people. So we're going to try and make that as streamlined as possible across existing panels and the access to resources panel, so it escalates rather than as a separate process. It is to make sure that panels and decision-making processes are operating efficiently, and that we're applying national good practice. The other thing that in some cases decisions are communicated to all parties, in some cases not. So one part of the business may not be aware of what a decision is being made about a particular support package. So we want to make sure that we, and that's that kind of single view of the child we've talked about. One of the other things that we want to make sure, because we've had some challenges on this, particularly around special educational needs, is the consistency in the decision making. So to provide people who make decisions with a framework that's consistent, to enable us to make decisions that are consistent and are the right things for children and families. And it is there to support colleagues, or it will be, and also our partners, because often, as you'll be aware, some of our packages of support attract tripartite funding from health colleagues. We do need to make sure that decisions are made in line with legislation, and in particular the SEND code of practice, and we do get a number of kind of challenges around that, so we want to try and reduce that risk. And equally important, strengthening the recording of decision outcomes with really clear rationale and supporting staff to do that. So if worst case scenario, we find ourselves in a tribunal situation, we have got really clear and robust rationale that was agreed right at the outset. And then in terms of the financial pressures, it gives certainly DLT and senior managers oversight of financial expenditure. If we are able to digitalise decision making, it will record financial costs. So as a result of those things that we've identified, we've started to begin to step up a new access to resource panel. We're looking to those new arrangements to come into effect over the next month. And it will be iterative in its development. We know that there's a kind of a pressure to introduce this quickly. So it may not be perfect to start with. It it will develop over time, and it will be chaired by Merlin. We're looking at an interim solution to be put in place until we've got full case management functionality across CFaS, so that we are recording our decisions and the costs associated with those, and actually enable people who chair panels and for Merlin as the chair of this panel to be able to see what other packages of support are going in to a child and or their family before making a decision about a new request. We're looking to develop those kind of high level plans with kind of short and long term timescales, so that, because the long term is that everything should be in a case management system and decisions can be recorded there. So we've got plans for that through the IT systems board. We will take that agile approach, as I've earlier described, and we will have multidisciplinary teams helping us to produce that. So we'll be asking colleagues from across CFaS to support in what that panel process needs to look like from across the directorate, but equally, how do we then feedback decisions in a really timely manner to services so they can continue to broker in that support if need be. So we will be testing and that as we go along and developing further iterations before we have a final product. Thanks, Daisy. Just very quickly, it will not replace all the panels. I think we initially explored that option, but we know that the volume of requests would make that impossible, but it is around high cost packages from across the system. We'll come to the access to resources panel for a kind of detailed discussion where a worker will present the case and the evidence to support the needs of the child, including costs of the current package, to give that holistic view to and aid informed decision making. It'll be a recommendation to the panel. It will be held weekly, and there'll be deadlines for submitting requests, as I'm sure you would expect. Any joint or tripartite funding will go to joint commissioning panel for agreement, following agreement at the access to resources panel as to the amount of LA funding. And that happens with health funding, for example. They will have agreed whether they will fund something and the value of that before coming to our joint commissioning panel. So we're putting that kind of mechanism in place. Thank you. So this is the kind of thresholds that we're proposing. So send panel, anything over 30,000, and we've been doing that for independent placements at the moment. So we've got a bit of a test model there. From the commissioning panel, any packages over £10,000, and for short breaks, anything over £6,000, and that needs to include existing package costs as well. We will, obviously, there'll be more detail. I'm conscious of time, so we will bring out. There will be more information coming out to you. We are obviously welcoming any feedback as we're developing this alongside DLT. So please drop me an email, and obviously those thresholds and guidance will be developed as and when we've finalised our kind of approach and process. Thank you, Merlin.
Thanks very much, Paula. And that was a lot of detail for folk to get their heads around. So as Paula said, there'll be lots more information coming out about the process. It is iterative, so this is the first step because there's a significant amount of decision making across those panels. But we'll be sending out more information. If anyone's got any questions, please share with with Paula.
Yeah.
So if you can share any questions, worries, please share them because we're in that process of design. But I think you know, there will be some things that we agree now that might change. But the important thing is we get rolling with the access to resources panel. So I look forward to seeing some of you there and welcome your support as we implement it. Okay, something a bit lighter now. that we're going to hear about, and I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm going to hand over, and we're going to hear Mark talk about the independent visitors and how it can boost your well-being. Okay, over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Merlin. Good morning, everybody. I'm hoping everybody can see me okay, because when we was in the breakout rooms, a couple of people couldn't see me, even though my camera's on. So I'm hoping that's all right. I'll carry on.
We can see you, Mark.
Good. Right, morning, everybody. Yes, I'm Mark Morton. As it says on the screen, Child Voice and Creative Engagement Officer. But my specific lead is the Independent Visitor Coordinator. So I'm from the Voices That Influence service. Just a little bit briefly about the team. We were formerly sort of known as the Children's Participation and Rights Team. Had a bit of a sort of a relaunch. A few of us sort of started in the team, kind of launched in January. Within the team, we've got obviously my lead role, and there's other lead areas such as the Children in Care Council. We have somebody that leads on that, where the Children in Care, a group of young people meet up regularly, and then meet with senior leadership as well to sort of have input into service development, things like that. We have our Young Carers offer, Young Carers lead. We have our advocacy offer. So we have 2 advocates in the team. We've also got our family voice and feedback person, and we're also we have Jade in the team, who's developing the role of young ambassadors, where we can have young people who've experienced services that we can then will be doing sessional work for the local authority. We've got, the Voices That Influence name. When we started, we didn't even have a name or a logo, so we did some co-design with young people to get that. So that's just a bit briefly about the team. But yes, obviously I'm going to talk to you about my role today. Thanks, Daisy. So what is an independent visitor? An independent visitor, or IVs as we sort of call them, they're the trained volunteers who visit and befriend a young person in care, usually around once a month. The aim of the role is to be a positive adult role model and provide some one-to-one time and space for a young person to talk and feel listened to, feel valued, and just have some fun. IVs are matched with one care experience, a child in care, young person, to befriend them and act as that positive role model, just building those trusting, positive relationships that they may lack, they may not have elsewhere. Children and young people in care have often experienced trauma and a lack of consistent adult relationships. So the IV may be that one constant adult they have in their life. We ask IVs to commit to sort of volunteering for a minimum of like 2 years. And the unique role of an IV enables children and young people to have just that, again, that one consistent, trusting relationship that it's built over time. The IV will then endeavour to become and remain a stable adult in child life who doesn't change when placement, when they get maybe moved to different foster carers or have different social workers, a lot of change in the life. So that one constant, and they will always remain that child focused. And an IV will take an interest into the lives and the hopes and concerns of that child or young person. There to listen and most of all have fun doing all kinds of activities together. Children and young people often say having an IV makes a really big difference to their lives, and improves their confidence and helping them to feel valued, and sort of creating lots of happy memories. The IV offer is a statutory offer, so it's a little bit of history just about it. It was first introduced in the 1989 Children Act, the legal framework for having an IV. It was initially around young people who maybe children, young people who didn't have much contact or no contact with family members, it was introduced as somebody to be that person to spend time with, but it's been amended since then, so it's now, it sort of states where it, where it appears to the local authority if it's in the best interest of the child, basically, to have one. So as I say, there is that statutory element to provide the service. And yeah, if you want to move it on, please, Daisy. Thank you. So how to get an IV and who can have one? Like I said, it's children and young people currently in care, and that includes those that are living out of area. We still have that duty to provide one, whether that be one of our own, or we look at sort of outsourcing that, but it would still be our responsibility to find them one. One of the first things we did when we started was, it used to be up to 18, so we managed to be able to get that increased to the up to 19th birthday, just to provide that extra support, and so it doesn't sort of fall off that cliff edge. When they've built up that relationship, we didn't want it to just come to an end when they turn 18. So, and then beyond that, obviously that young person is going into adulthood, and then they may want to carry that on independently themselves, and just somebody who's wanting that, again, that extra support, guidance from somebody who's independent of services, that it is what it says on the tin, they are independent, they are volunteers, that they're not part of any professional network, any social workers. Obviously the IVs, it's my job to sort of supervise them and support them, but they arrange the meetings with the young person themselves. If they've obviously got any safeguarding concerns, everything comes up, that's what me and the team are there for. But yeah, as I said, totally independent. And in terms of referrals and recruitment, a young person we do have a new referral forms and application forms, and a young person can ask the social worker or the foster carer to, that if they say they want one, then we can sort of look at that. Me and the social worker can complete the application form. A young person technically could sort of refer themselves in if they want to. And in terms of recruitment, we are looking to get on board, several more IVs, because we have a waiting list of young people and we need to sort of get those numbers up. So we started a recruitment campaign a couple of weeks ago to coincide with National Volunteers Week. So we're still pushing that. So if anybody does know anybody that's interested, please do get in touch. And yes, and once we've got them on board, then there's some mandatory induction training, and then ongoing supervision and support from myself. And then then there's that matching process, matching up to the young person. It's got to be the right match, so in terms of like shared interests and making sure that relationship's gonna work, basically. We created a new thing. You may be able to just see it on the screen there, the bottom little image. This is me for my IV, so that's for a young person to complete, and we're going to do that for the IV to give to a young person as well. Next slide, please, Daisy. So in terms of improving well-being, obviously, what being a volunteer can do and give back, as well as helping others, volunteering has been shown to improve volunteers' well-being too. It's human nature to feel good after helping someone out. Volunteering can also help you gain valuable new skills and experiences, boost your confidence, and it was just over 14 million people in the UK volunteered for a different group, club or organisation in 22-23. So, it just shows this sort of amazing value to it. More than half of the UK population gets involved in informal volunteering, things like going shopping for somebody, or providing childcare, or doing housework for somebody. So in terms of benefits for the young person, obviously it helps grow their confidence, gives them that constant person throughout their life as they sort of going through maybe teenage years. Helps them understand and build positive networks that they can take into adulthood. stress reduction from getting out of the house and doing fun activities, some benefits for the IV themselves, just that satisfaction from helping someone who needs support and giving back to their community, a sense of purpose and reward from seeing the young person achieve and grow, and that their own personal growth and development. We have some IVs that doing an amazing job that started doing it when they've not worked with children, young people before. They don't have any children themselves. They just wanted to try something different, and they're doing an amazing job. And also becoming part of something bigger through the volunteer networks, and that sort of enhanced perspective, including strengthening their own skill set. Next slide, please, Daisy. And that just sort of, there's a testimonial there from one of our current IVs, and just sort of backs up what I was just saying, what he's sort of gotten out of it. And he's been doing it for 16 years for us. He's had several young people in that time. And as you can see that, I won't read it all out, but, he's still going strong. He's such an inspiration. He loves everything. He loves everything about the role. He supported so many young people. And as he says there are so many young people in care at the moment that would benefit from having an IV. And I'm just the quote there from that young person, that isn't one of our young people, by the way. That was just I don't want you to link that quote with the image, but the quote is actually from one of our current young people who's had an IV. And as he says, having an IV has been an amazing experience. It's like having a best mate who takes you out. And IVs don't get paid, so they do it because they want to. Also, it's always something to look forward to, because you do what you want, where you want, which gets you out of the house into a safe space to talk about anything, all private. And I just think that says it all about the impact it can have. But like I say, we are pushing recruitment. We do need to get more on board. And so please do share this, and please do get in touch if anybody knows anybody. But that's it from me. Thank you, Daisy.
Thanks, Mark. And you can see the love coming through from colleagues on the call in terms of an amazing piece of work, and obviously to the team who deliver this program. And absolutely, we're recruiting now. So if anyone knows someone who might be interested in it and volunteering, we'll absolutely want to hear from you. And Mark, if you can maybe put your email address in the chat. I'm sure there may be somebody who knows somebody who's wanted to volunteer, and this is a really rewarding experience for the young person, but also the volunteer. So thanks very much for that presentation. We've come to the end of the road, guys. I think it's been a really interesting session, very varied, but I'm hoping you found something in the presentations that you've heard this morning. As I said before, if there's any feedback, people have left their details in the chat. Please contact those individuals if you want to get involved. It's really important that you're involved in shaping our new ways of working. So please follow up on that. And then if you can send the notes that you've made from the 10-minute exercise, please send them through to Daisy. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Maybe Tom's on the call. He might want to come in. It's just about Market Wheaton School, who achieved a national award on the 21st. It was the SEND Award for the most inclusive practice across schools, which is really fantastic. Well done to everybody in those schools, but also to East Riding colleagues. There was a mention of East Riding colleagues, absolutely. Richard and Kirsty. So well done to those of you who've made that achievement, but also for those children and young people who attend that school in terms of feeling inclusive and part of the family at that school. So well done. Now, I don't know if any of you are football fans, but England are playing tonight. So 8 o'clock, if you are, make sure you support them. I will be supporting them. My partner's up here this week, staying with me. So I've got to watch it, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Let's hope it's better than the last match, yeah? Okay. I'll let you crack on with the day. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.